Welcome to episode 283 of In Touch with iOS, the show that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies. I am host Dave Ginsburg, and Chuck Joyner, he's back on the show. How you doing, Chuck?
I am officially the bluebird of happiness tonight, David.
Good. Glad you're here.
So I'm delighted to be here in spite of the accusations thrown at me at pre-show.
And speaking of accusations, Jeff Gamet is here.
That's fair. Chuck, in my defense, I just call them like I see them.
I've been called worse, Jeff. So you know.
It's we both have.
Good point.
And last,
probably at the same events even.
Ben Roethig, you're here. How are you doing? Glad you're here.
I'm good and involved in zero accusations.
All right, that's good. So we got another great show for you this week. Lots of good amount of news. 17.2 is coming. It's going to be here anytime now. Got maybe talk a little bit about VPN and some streaming, bundling, and all kinds of fun stuff that's out there this week. But let's jump right into the news. First story that caught my eye was that that old Apple the first iPhone SE. I had one of those. It's now considered vintage. Apple this week has added the original iPhone SE to its vintage obsolete products list. The first one came out in, oh my gosh, it's been 7 years, March 2016, which means it's been over 7 years. It was sold until 2018, and then it had been 5 years since it was last available for sale, making it eligible for its vintage designation. And it continued. The SE line continues on to this day. There's, I believe, a series. There's a third gen of that, potentially rumored fourth gen. It's a good little phone, but it's no frills. I mean, I did try one at one point, and I'm like, why do I have this phone when I've been using the the top line model all these years? What do you guys think? This is just obviously this continues on with Apple and all their old iPhones. But what do you think, Jeff?
The fact that it took this long for the iPhone SE, the original, to become vintage tells me that all the people that complain about Apple forcing obsolescence on us, tone it down. Holy crap, this phone is 7 years old and it's just now being considered obsolete. That's amazing.
It is. How about you, Ben?
With my parents, I have dealt with the original SE. It was a very good phone. In fact, my father went from the iPhone 5S to the SE1, which shared its casing.
Oh, so that worked out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's honestly the simple nature of the phone makes it very, very attractive to those who are not technologically savvy. And as someone who does have to support those who really do not want to be in technology, I'm dreading the day that the SE3 goes away, because I think it's going to be the last phone with the home button.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Good point. What about you, Chuck?
I'll echo Jeff's comments. 7 years is a long time with given the speed with which phone technology has developed. But I'll also go with what Ben said, because it's been, for better or worse, it's been a little while since I've done this, but I do feel like there's an opportunity for someone, whether it's Apple or someone else, to give folks of a certain age, of a certain technological expertise, a phone that is just basic. And Ben, you're right. The home button, that was something everybody could understand. And they can, because you could draw analogies between the way phones used to work. This won't be the case forever because, unfortunately, time marches on, and the folks that need it are going to leave us. But at the same time, we're going to become those folks at some point, and I hope that somebody is designing phones. It maybe not this group, but people in our age group, because it still amazes me how many people in our age group are sorely lacking in technical skills. And I don't mean, what we do with our phones or our iPads or our Macs, but just the very basics, and freely acknowledge it like it's almost a badge of honor of some kind.
We've focused some on people who aren't as enthusiastic about technology as we are. However, there's another segment where this is a great phone, and it's the people that don't want a phone with a giant screen, because it's a fully capable phone. It's not like it's a stripped down iPhone, because it can do all this stuff. Right. But let's say you have pockets, small pockets on your pants, like they do with women's clothes. Why? I don't know. All right. Now you can put a little phone in your pocket, and it's just a great little thing. So, Ben, you're probably right. The SE3 is the last one with a home button. If my mom's transition from an iPhone 7 to an iPhone 14 is any indication, the lack of the home button isn't going to be as big a deal as some people fear.
Yeah.
My mom adapted so fast to swipe up.
Yeah, no, that's true. All right, let's go ahead. I just have a PSA here. Apple has released a new AirPods Pro 2 firmware, and it was released this week. It's for both the Lightning and the USB-C version. The firmware version is 6B34 from the 632. Again, Apple never provides any details about what features that might have been included in this refreshed firmware beyond bug fixes and other improvements. The way you can check it is if you connect your AirPods to your iOS device, open the Settings app, go under General, tap About, tap AirPods, and you can look for the number next to the firmware version. It'll just update when you connect your phone. I don't think we have to say much else about this other than more of a PSA for you're getting some updates for your AirPods. And the next story here was there is a new app out here called Beeper. And Beeper Mini brings an iMessage to Android with no need for Apple ID sign-in. Beeper Mini, which is ostensibly has brought iMessage to Android devices with no need for the signing in with Apple ID credentials, is launched in the Google Play Store. And the Beeper Mini operates by identifying text message conversations from iMessage users and converts them to the recognizable blue bubbles on their end associated with the Apple exclusive messaging service. That enables Android users to interact with iMessage features such as reactions, threads, high-quality media sharing, group chats without the iPhone users even noticing a difference. So there is continued push to try to get us, those Android users, to work in our iPhone world, right? What do you think of this, Chuck?
The backstory seems to be very interesting. I don't feel like, even though we've been assured that this does not violate any privacy, it does not compromise anything, I want to see a little bit more about that. But I'm still intrigued by the green bubble, blue bubble thing, that this makes a difference. But if it does, it does. And so this kid, or this group, this kid, I guess, was the originator, and then he seemed to have gotten some backing and brought Beeper to life. I kind of can't get excited about it. Okay, if you're on an Android phone and you appear as a blue bubble, fine. As long as the messages go through and as long as it's not compromising privacy issues. Unfortunately, it seems like that's all we do on all of our shows is constantly beat on the privacy thing. But the more we find out about how much our privacy has already been compromised and is being used to sell us or sell to us? You got to ask that question every time something like this comes up.
Yeah. Interesting. You don't see any real mention of that in this article about people with privacy. What do you think, Ben?
I'm really interested in this from a technical standpoint. Essentially, the whole thing behind it, Beeper is an existing Android app. They bought the code for essentially this Hackintoshification of iMessage from a teenager, and were able to completely integrate it into a new app, which will eventually become their main app once they get everything over. But the way that they do it, essentially they were the kid, the kid programmer. He reverse engineered Apple's own protocols, and then used the Hackintosh way of doing things, where they pretty much spoof a serial number.
They're spoofing certificates.
Yeah, essentially, having watched Quinn Nelson's Snazzy Labs video on this, about the only way Apple would be able to stop this, assuming the Beeper is right and it is fully legal, would be to change how iMessage works, which would then potentially leave some older iPhones and other Apple products in the dust too. It could also, you can also sign in directly to iMessage on device on this without having a relay like in other attempts at this. It's going to be interesting to see how this goes.
Yep. Your final word, Jeff.
This whole thing is incredibly clever, and Ben's right. It's reverse engineering, and it's faking certificates, forging certificates to make the whole thing work. What I am really looking forward to seeing is how Apple responds to this.
Yes. Is it going to get cracked?
Yes.
Are they going to block it?
And if they do find a way to block it, are they going to end up doing what Ben suggested, which is blocking or locking out some iPhone users, older iPhone users, from being able to effectively use iMessage, which I don't think Apple wants to do. So this fun one, I'll be watching.
Oh, by the way, it's going to be a $2 subscription too.
Oh, I hadn't seen that. So really, you're going to pay somebody $2 a month so you can have blue bubbles.
Well, that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is that you can have end-to-end encrypted messages natively with iPhone users without having to rely on
Meta
or other apps that are relaying stuff through servers.
If it is working as advertised, and that's where I want to see the security people tear it apart and see, and maybe they already have. Maybe that's what you're referring to, Ben. But it just feels too new that somebody I want the people that really know that stuff to go in, dig through it, and tell me it's okay.
Quinn.
Yeah, sorry.
Quinn from Snazzy Labs tore apart the code from it, showed exactly how it worked, and since it's using all Apple's protocols, it looks secure.
I would still be really hesitant to share anything.
I would agree.
I every time every time you think something is just impenetrable, somebody comes up with a way to mess with it. And I don't know. I mean, maybe I've just gotten old, cynical, and paranoid. That'd be a great T-shirt. But it just, for heaven's sake, just go buy an iPhone. Yes. If you really want it that bad, if you really want to be sure your messages are end-to-end encrypted, you want them in blue balls and all, go buy an iPhone.
Agree with you with that. All right, let's move on to the next story here. We talked about the end of year awards for Apple on other items like the App Store, but there was an Apple Podcasts announcement that the podcast "Wiser Than Me" with Julie Louis-Dreyfus was 2023's show of the year. Apple did name that show of the year as its annual award recognizes a podcast for its exceptional quality, innovation, and influence within the podcasting industry. Wiser Than Me debuted in April of 2023 and has since garnered acclaim for its distinctive approach, featuring interviews with notable women such as Jane Fonda, Carol Burnett. So yeah, we got some big, high-powered actresses that are involved with this show. But I like Julia Louis-Dreyfus. She was always very. She has done some great work, and it's kind of fun to see that all these mainstream actors and actresses are getting into the podcasting world, because it just continues on as to this day, saying finally they see maybe podcasting is worth doing something, right, Chuck?
Yeah, it's the great democratizer, as they say, because anyone can do it. However, the problem that I see here is that it's in some ways like Animal Farm, where all the animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. Yeah. And by that I mean you have the people that can produce a quality show, but then you have the people that have the backing of production studios and production companies to really professionally create a show, the same as if it were a TV show or a movie or a radio show, professional. And that makes it difficult for everyone to compete on that same playing field. That said, it's a great show.
Yeah. What do you think, Chuck?
I think Jeff said it really well. We knew this was going to happen because this is what always happens. Mm-hmm. And so, the big name stars, automatically she's going to have a subscriber base because of who she is.
Right.
And I don't know about you, but I got over very quickly because somebody had a podcast with a name that I would subscribe to it. I might try it, but after a while, I just burn out because the content is either the same thing over and over and over. And there's no groundbreaking, with all due respect to Apple's comments about, innovation in the podcast industry. I'm not sure I see that here. I can think of about 36 shows that I think deliver more value and more diversity of topic and diversity of information than something like this. So good for her. That's great. But Jeff, you're right. I feel like whether I like it or not, she's playing in a different class than any of us are, and that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. You got the last word, Ben.
Honestly, at this point, celebrity podcasts are the new Cameo.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. That's good. I like that.
I like it.
Well done.
Well, we can just wrap up the show right there.
Yeah,
because
that's
can't top that line.
Yeah,
but
another
do
T-shirt.
you want me to grab my mic so I can drop it?
Yeah. Yeah.
But we did have some comments in the chat at youtube.com/intouchwithios. Hi, Cletus and Webb. I see you in the chat. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. Cletus says the Shuttlepod 1 had a ton of Trek stories on it and some interesting backstories. So yeah, there are other podcasts that have interesting stuff, but that's the thing. Having these big name stars doing these podcasts, I think, are they're like you said, Chuck. Right away, they're going to have these big audiences because of who they are.
Yeah, and again, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
They're leveraging it, and I guess the ones that I've seen that have celebrities and that I respect are the ones who are doing something that they couldn't do otherwise. That their talents, their areas of expertise, that they're breaking new grounds for themselves as well as the listeners.
Yeah,
I'm not so sure that's the case here, but again, she's got a lot of star power herself. She's bringing in even more star power. Good for you, go girl.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's move on. Next story: Instagram and Facebook Messenger chats are going to be disconnected this month. Meta has revealed plans to end Instagram's users' ability to chat with Facebook accounts later this month. It's as we record this in December of 2023, rolling back a feature that they had introduced about 3 years ago. Back in 2020, Meta, then Facebook, announced that it was merging the Facebook Messenger and Instagram direct messaging to allow each of those platforms to chat with each other and vice versa. So according to an upgraded support page on Instagram, they're beginning mid-December, they're going to the cross-app communication features will no longer be available. So definitely interesting to see, is Meta looking to separate out these services? I mean, you got Threads as the other one in there as well. As far as chat goes, what are your thoughts on this, Jeff?
I want to know what the reasoning behind this is, because it doesn't make sense on the surface. Right. Why not make all of the various platforms that you have as interoperable as possible? Because then you increase the likelihood that you maintain your user base inside your ecosystem. Right. I have seen the speculation that this has to do with EU regulations and maybe, I don't know. It just from a regular business standpoint, it just feels kind of weird. Why not let all of these things interact?
Yeah. Well, the article also goes back and says speculations could be that it's a larger effort to comply with Europe's Digital Markets Act. Theory that Meta could be preparing to introduce a wider interoperability with Instagram Messenger and WhatsApp. Like Jeff, Ben, you can go ahead and hit your thought on that since you put that in our chat, local private chat.
Yeah, I think they're starting to wind down Messenger and just roll everything into WhatsApp.
It only makes sense.
Okay, so if they're doing that, why not leave everything interacting until you're ready to actually launch the all-encompassing WhatsApp? Maybe they're about to do that.
Yeah.
It's possible. Last thought on it, Chuck?
I'm torn between Jeff's comment about interoperability and what seems to be the increasing complexity of all of the Meta platforms. Trying to figure out which platform I'm on, who I'm communicating with, and what they're seeing or how I'm receiving back any feedback that I get from them.
Yep.
I already have that issue a little bit with Messenger and Facebook. Now that's the way I use Messenger and Facebook. But I almost feel like that, I don't know if you just create one master platform and merge them all in, but then you're going to alienate some people who seriously dislike Facebook, but have made peace with Instagram. And then you have the Threads users that are trying to do something completely different. So yeah, and then Messenger versus WhatsApp. I mean, yeah, after a while, it's just this big soup that is becoming increasingly difficult to understand.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Next story. This happened last week, but we hadn't reviewed it this week. The entire team behind the popular iPhone video app Filmic has been reportedly laid off. It's one of many favorite folks have their favorite video apps. This is probably one of the bigger ones here. I guess it might not be too long for the world. According to a report, the entire team that was working on this app has been laid off by its parent company, Bending Spoons. The report explains that Filmic was acquired by an Italy-based app developer that was Bending Spoons in 2022. And is rumored to gone through a round of layoffs, and those layoffs have been confirmed. So it's kind of sad to hear this. We've talked about across all our shows here about this app, and it was an absolutely great app for video on an iPhone. It's kind of sad to see, but they're saying in its place that the Blackmagic's video and photography apps have been becoming increasingly popular since, and the Blackmagic camera app was actually the app that was using to shoot October's Apple special event entirely on the iPhone. So that kind of hints it away there as well. What do you think, Ben?
First, I'd like to start with this. In addition to Blackmagic, the Lux, the team behind Halide, is now working on a video app.
Okay.
But honestly, Filmic was first shown to me by a colleague of mine, Michael Artsis in New York. He did absolutely brilliant stuff when that app just came out. Essentially creating in big budget DSLR setups for iPads. Honestly, iPhone and iPad video would not be where it's at without this app. And it just breaks my heart that this happened to this team in this app.
Yeah.
I'm hoping Bending Spoons can sell the IP to someone who will do something with it and bring it back to its former glory.
Yeah. Absolutely. Jeff, what do you think?
Well, Bending Spoons is a company that's known for picking up apps that need to have some life breathed back into them, and typically, from what I've seen, their intent is to actually keep these apps alive. So if they've reached a point where they've had to lay off the entire team for Filmic, then that tells me it's an app that, from a business standpoint, they deem to not be viable anymore. So yeah, I'm with Ben. I hope that the IP for Filmic can find a new place to live, and maybe becomes like an open source thing, and the community keeps it alive. I would hate to see it leave. It's not the app that I use, but I appreciate the important role it's played in the mobile video space. So I don't want it to go away.
Final word, Chuck, on this.
I've had Neil Barham, the founder of Filmic, on my show a couple of times, along with a lot of his staff, at different times at different trade shows. And this was an app that I used to shoot some of the video from a couple CESs. And it gave you things that the native iPhone app didn't. Now, and I don't know that it ever degraded, and I don't think it's been Sherlocked, but the video capabilities of the new phones, with all the different assets and resources and the different modes in which you can shoot, including log, is now a lot different than when Filmic was the star of the show. And so I don't know if it's perceived that there's not a need for this, or that the competition is too stiff, given that one of the main competitors is Apple. I don't know. I'm with Jeff. I don't want to see it go away, but I also recognize that, if it wasn't able to keep up, or if it wasn't able to differentiate itself under Bending Spoons properly, then, that may have something to do with it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's go on, move on to the news for this week. Starting with beta 17.2, iOS 17.2 is in the release candidate mode, or the 5th beta. It was out this week. And we're getting very close to the final version of 17.2. We did say it was going to be sometime in December. I wouldn't be surprised. It could be as soon as next week as we record this. And we've gone over many of the different added items that are in 17.2. So it's definitely going to be something that we're going to be interesting to see here. So that's iPad OS 17.2 as well as iOS 17.2. Do you see anything different on beta this week, Ben?
Well, I did see one big thing that's a little bit further down the list. I don't know if you want to talk about that quite yet.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we finally got some answers on Qi 2.
Okay, right.
And that it appears to be very, very based on MagSafe, since the iPhone 13 and 14 are being upgraded to Qi 2 with this release. I don't know why the iPhone 12 series was left out. There could have been some changes made with the 13, but this is very exciting for the previous two generations of phones.
Yep, well, I agree. Anything stand out to you on your iPad there, Jeff?
No, it's just working.
Yeah, so nothing too crazy. A couple other interesting things that are popping up, and of course, TV OS and Watch OS. Watch OS 10.2 is out. There wasn't a ton of stuff that was added in the Watch update. They just have a number of improvements and bug fixes, so there really hasn't been a lot of huge standouts. Unless Ben, you notice anything with your watch?
Nothing.
Yeah. So, but notably, some stuff has changed in tvOS. Believe it or not, we can actually talk about something on tvOS. I know. One of the things was they were talking about making some changes to the remote. I was going through. There was going to be there's going to be some updates as far as very minor in scale, but the app does the TV app now also includes a sidebar that houses content from both Apple services and streaming services. So I've noticed that as I've been beta testing. So you got like the little button at the top there, and it brings down the menu, and now you see Apple TV Plus, the MLS Season Pass, sports, the store, the library, and some dedicated sections for streaming services like ABC, CBS, Hulu. Well, Hulu and Disney are going to be kind of together. You're talking about that a little later.
Mm-hmm.
So it did have that that really stood out on it. So and they're also going to be eliminating the iTunes movies and TV show apps in 17.2, which I'd never used anyway. I never understood why that stuck around as long as it did. So
I think I'm the lone iTunes movies user.
Yeah.
So I think they found them at the same time as they found the Trailers app.
Yeah.
I was the lone Trailers app user.
Anything you used on this? Did you ever use that, Chuck?
Trailers app?
Yep. Yeah, any of those apps?
I mean, dabbled in it. I can't say I was a user. I knew what they were. I knew they were there. Occasionally somebody would steer me to one, but yeah, they weren't on my list of hits.
Okay. So there'll be a few things you'll see in that. So that's pretty much it as far as what was going on with the beta. But I wanted to move on to another topic here. We had a number of bugs that have been out here, and I wanted to kind of hit here just kind of in a topic here. The first one was this iPhone, the iOS 17 bug switches apps while you're typing, and how do you fix that? Have you guys experienced this at all when you switch apps and while you're typing that it just switches?
I have to type a lot, so like doing longer document in notes, or you're writing a really long email, and I don't write stuff that long on my phone. That said, if it were to happen to me, you would have known about it already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't. It hasn't happened to me, but then again, I am a Swift key user. I do not use the standard Apple keyboard, so I don't know if that has something to do with it or not.
Okay. Yeah, it hasn't happened to me either, so that's why I found this to be interesting. But there's been a fair amount of discussion about it. So you just get kicked out of messages or notes or other apps in mid sentence, and you find yourself in another app because you're just still tapping on the screen.
It's just like using a Mac.
Yeah, exactly. and the bug can be hard to replicate, like they said here. So, but until they have a fix. Apparently there is a fix that you can go into accessibility and do. If you go into settings under accessibility, under physical and motor, and select touch, you can turn off the switch next to reachability, and that could.
Oh, right, you have to turn off reachability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
well,
so that could help you. Yeah, well, so why do you want to turn off accessibility feature? So,
right, especially one that's really useful because our phone screens are so big.
Yeah, that too. So, the other bug that was kind of interesting, actually, this came across the news today as we record this. If you're using a Magic Keyboard, you've opened up a attack vector. Now, this is a researcher that had found a way to enter type on your Mac, iPad, or iPhone without your permission. If you're connected to a Bluetooth Magic Keyboard. Being able to connect keyboards wirelessly is obviously an enormous boom using Bluetooth, but Bluetooth has never been the most secure of technologies. And this researcher had just now found a vulnerability. He's saying that he's investigating a report of unauthenticated Bluetooth keystroke injection vulnerabilities in both Mac OS and iOS for some time. And at this point, he still thinks that Bluetooth was probably okay-ish. But the mirage of, I like that word, is the mirage of Apple security was starting to fade. So I guess what it is you can the vulnerabilities are working by tricking the Bluetooth host state machine into pairing with a fake keyboard without user confirmation. An underlying unauthenticated pairing mechanism in the defined in Bluetooth specifications continues an implementation of specific bugs or exposing that to the attacker. How do you protect yourself?
Doesn't that make it a Bluetooth in general thing and not just a Magic Keyboard thing?
That's what I'm thinking. We're going to hit another story here just a bit about Bluetooth, but that's what I'm thinking with this. That's what I found this to be intriguing. This has been unsecure for a while, but no one's really made such a big deal out of it, right?
Yeah, that tells me it's probably not as big of a problem, practically speaking, as it sounds. I mean, yes, this is a big problem, but if we're not really seeing this exploited, then it's probably not that big of a situation or issue in the real world. But still, I'm trying to figure out why are they saying, hey, it's a Magic Keyboard thing when it sounds like it's actually a Bluetooth thing.
Yeah. Seems it.
Because it's Apple. That's why. I mean,
oh, right. Because that's how you get the clicks.
Yeah. David, go back and do that quote again where was it? The veil of Apple security or something is, fading. Come on, guys. Anytime you're doing any kind of wireless communication, you're a lot more vulnerable than if you're using wired communication. It just is. And I'm not. And given the fact that it's Bluetooth, we already have questions over the range of Bluetooth. It's gotten better, but this seems like something you would have to be in the same room or the very next room, unless somebody has found a way to really amp up Bluetooth or amp up Bluetooth reception and transmission. So, yeah, I take nothing away from the fact that this is an issue, but I'm with you. I think it's more than just a Bluetooth or just more than an Apple issue.
All right, I'm reading up on this now. Okay, so it's a Bluetooth problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, Apple's part in this. It has to do with a bug in their implementation. So Apple can address their bug, and that fixes the problem. But it's a problem that affects Android and Linux and
Windows.
Yeah. So
nobody notices Windows because there are already so many holes that
Booyah.
it's just one more.
Yeah, well, Windows just like they're more. It'd be a story if something was secure.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, and targeting or calling out the Magic Keyboard, unless it's an implementation bug only related to Bluetooth on Magic Keyboard, then this is kind of a disingenuous piece. It has legit information, but
it's legit information wrapped in clickbait.
Yeah. Personally, I prefer my information wrapped in bacon.
That's much better. Way tastier than clickbait.
Bacon. So, yeah, there's 2 articles here in the show notes to talk about this. There was also just the overall vulnerability with Bluetooth and a security hole attack. And like you said, it's just something Apple, they've known about it. And in general, Bluetooth is not the most secure thing when it comes to connections. You don't want to be doing any networking and that kind of stuff with a Bluetooth device. And then, and also, why do you think there are a lot of companies out there who tried not for people to use Bluetooth keyboards and mice and go back to the standard old USB device, because you don't have that problem with those. But everybody continues to want to have that convenience of having a Bluetooth device. It's because it is convenient and makes life easy when it comes to that. So, once in a while here we have good discussion about a little bit of this week in streaming technologies here. And it's interesting to see how streaming is evolving, and there's notably been news about a number of potential bundles as well as merging of applications. First one that was interesting nothing has been officially announced just yet, but it's sounding promising, is the fact that Apple and Paramount are considering a discounted TV Plus streaming bundle. This was actually in the Wall Street Journal as a quote here from Mac Rumors. The companies have been talking about offering a combination of both Paramount Plus and Apple TV Plus that would cost less than the subscribing to both the services separately. So they are noting that potentially this could happen because Apple just did announce some price increases on Apple TV Plus. It went from $6.99 a month to $9.99 a month. That's a $3 rise, and where you're starting to see more and more trends of this, where they're bundling. Now, also, which Showtime was part of that, decided to take their own service, Showtime, and bundle it with Paramount Plus. So that's kind of that's not as a similar thing that's happening. But I don't know what your guys' take on these kinds of bundles that you're seeing when it comes to these streaming services. I mean, this is like I find this to be the most fascinating time right now in the streaming world. Compared to everybody have talked about cord cutting and getting away from cable TV and all that. So, Ben, let me start with you. What do you think of this particular discussion about these bundles?
Yeah, we're at a time where TV is definitely in books.
Yeah.
We went away from the traditional cable model, went to a la carte, which didn't seem to be profitable for anybody. Now they're kind of trying to recreate that cable model for these bundles. I would be interested to see how they do it. Is it going to be, essentially, I would assume it'd be bundling Paramount Plus as a channel within Apple TV. But if I can get a discount that way, or if Apple can get similar discounts with other streaming services, that would be something I'd have to look at. The other thing, I'm not a channels user for Paramount Plus currently. I would be kind of interested to know how that handles the live TV aspect of Paramount Plus.
That's true. Because speaking of that, you also have Hulu and Disney are now merging their apps into one. So the Hulu standalone service, not the live TV version of it, the customers who subscribe to that bundle already, you can now access Hulu content through like a universal Hulu Disney Plus beta app that's out there right now. It's available for bundle subscribers as of now, but they're planning to test the combined service before it rolls out next spring. So you're gonna start seeing the same thing. You've got all the Hulu content, and then you have all of the Disney Plus content that are going to be all in one place. And Hulu was kind of a service anyway that did that, because you see stuff from like Fox and FX and a lot of other content providers that are on Hulu anyway that weren't necessarily part of that. One of the things that really stemmed this merger of the apps is because Disney decided to buy out the rest of the 33% of what Comcast had owned of Hulu. So now Comcast just go on their own merry way. Let's let this service do its thing. So, what do you think, Chuck, on these kinds of bundles? I'd like to hear your thoughts.
I think the bundles are fine. I mean, if it helps the consumer, what I think is interesting, bundles are one thing. This combining of services, merging services, wrapping services into another. Yeah. We're back to the whole where is my show and how do I watch it thing. And every time you make one of these changes, I think it looks good in the boardroom and it may even look good in the engineering department, but I'm not sure that anybody is looking at a user acceptance or user experience angle. And it just, I mean, every time I turn on my TV, whatever that means anymore. Does that mean I'm turning it on to streaming, or does it mean I'm turning it on to broadcast or something else? I don't want to have to go and look all the time. And so many of them, especially notably Amazon, they're constantly throwing things up at me saying, here, check this out, check this out, check this out. It's like, okay, I freely admit sometimes they'll throw something at me. It's like, hey, that looks interesting. Maybe I'll put that on my list. But for the most part, and I mean, I may be an outlier, but when I turn it on, I've got a pretty good idea of what I intend to want to watch. Not like it used to be, so I'll sit down and see what's on TV tonight. No, I know where I want to go, but you're constantly trying to distract me, or worse, put up barriers to me getting to where I want to go. And so that's, and I realize that was not exactly your question, Dave, but I think that there is, that's part of an answer. Because Hulu, what was it? Hulu and Disney. Did I have that right? Did they? Yes. They wrapped it into one app. Okay, well then what the heck is that app? Yeah, but what is that app going to look like? And how much as a new user am I going to have to struggle to find what it is that I wanted to see? And I know it's there. I just don't know where to find it. That's a real challenge.
For me, I liked the Disney Plus interface far more than Hulu's. So testing it a little bit myself, it's a lot easier for me to find content on Hulu now. Plus, it's one less app to look through.
Yeah, that's a fair point, Ben. And so maybe I am looking at it wrong. I do think, though, that it's healthy that if I'm a content provider, if I'm one of these services, I'd like the idea of being able to partner with Jeff today and see how it goes. And if it's not going so well, or if Ben can give me a better deal, maybe next week I'll partner with Ben. Or maybe I'll partner with both of you and we'll either do a mega bundle, or I'll just have two separate bundles, depending on what you're each delivering, that would complement what I'm offering. I mean, your head can swim with all the options, and that in itself is a bit of a problem.
And really, and then go back to the content itself, accessibility. You have it in every place that you can really conceivably think as far as accessing this. Mm-hmm. Apple TV, Roku, at Google TV, you have all those set-top type boxes. You got your built-in smart TV. You can access this stuff. So where is this all going to go? And when they start bundling these apps, now all those services have to make all those devices have to make the adjustments by getting the developers to create their new apps and getting them to work right. And it's going to get a little interesting to see how that particular service works, specifically Hulu and Disney.
Oh, and meanwhile, I don't know that anybody's invented a time machine. There are only so many hours in a day that you can dedicate to watching videos. So therefore, I think that most people are just going to become even more intentional than they are now.
Yeah.
And if you're putting up a barrier to me getting to something I want to watch, I may find something else to watch somewhere else.
Yeah. And then, I've changed my workflow. I've changed my viewing flow now because I went, as everybody I've mentioned shows before, I cut the cord, got rid of Comcast, and I've been pretty much on YouTube TV, and I actually been pretty happy with it for the most part. I think it's got some room for improvement for its interface, but for the most part, it gets me what I want. But now I've got my top my top row. Look at my top row of my Apple TV. I have Apple TV Plus. I have Max. I'm a subscriber for that, and we have Netflix and Paramount Plus. And then I also add into the bundle Friendly TV, which is a smaller service, but I really like to watch a lot of the content from the A&E networks, and notably History Channel. And that app doesn't have a very good interface. It needs some pretty good improvement, but at least I have access, and it doesn't cost a terribly a big amount of money. I think it's like $7 a month or something like that for a service like that. So. Just happy to not be dealing with cable anymore. But then there's also another way you can get around this, and I remember I was going to review this and just add it to the show notes, so I'm not going to surprise you guys here, is a service that's called Tablo TV, and you can buy this device from them that allows you to have an external antenna using the HD connections with a little device. And I've tried this method for many times. There was a service, like a device called the Home Run HD. I absolutely hated it. The reception was horrible. I mean, I don't want to go up on my roof and have to put up an antenna. If I want to be able to have the option to be able to have these indoor antennas these days, as long as you point it wherever the towers are for the TV stations in your area, you should have a pretty good way in the reception. So I hooked this up. I got it set up in the bedroom. The nice thing about it is it doesn't have to sit in a place where it's near your internet connection. It can be anywhere because it could be on the Wi-Fi network. And I must say, I'm pretty impressed how this Tablo TV is working. The only thing I'm complaining about is that it has no Apple TV app, and you can't watch it on your iPhone or your iPad, and it has no smart TV. So I of course have a Google TV device. So I went to try it on the Google TV device, and the experience is decent. I mean, it does go through and it does grab out all these channels that are out in the open air of an HD antenna. In the Chicago area, unfortunately, I know like Channel 2, which is CBS here, has always been known to having horrible reception, and when I hooked it up, I fully expected and was right that channel with this indoor antenna doesn't come in well, and it sometimes says it can't get the signal. So, but these services have been around forever, trying to get better experience. But the good thing is can be it's on your network, so now you have access to it. All those other services have tried to retransmit that. The local stations obviously got shut down because they weren't getting their royalties. Well, this device is just doing in between of the antenna and bringing it to you without having to have a TV. So, Chuck, I know you also explored this too. Do you have any comments of the experience you've had with this?
I've had good experience with it, Dave. I mean, you pointed out some of the gaps right for the moment, but this is the first thing that I've had any significant success with, as far as being able to replace my cable, because of where I live. Reception is a little bit shaky. Sure. Not because it's not a proximity issue. It's a what's between me and the tower issue. Right. And so this is the first time I've had any kind of reliable luck with this, and it's well worth looking at. I have to say that as experimenting with it, I'm probably watching more broadcast TV than I have in a long time. And this is an editorial comment that may take us back to somewhere else, but God, there are a lot of ads.
Yeah.
For 30 minutes of programming, holy cow, you're using up 6, 7, 8 minutes, I swear, of ads. And it makes me long for the streaming services. Even with the streaming service, the ads aren't as obnoxious as the number that you're getting on broadcast TV right now.
Broadcast TVs. But you know what? The cool thing is it also has a built-in DVR. So you are able to record shows. And I believe, you can fast forward through the commercials like we've done with TiVo and some of the other types of set-top boxes that you bought on your own. So I think this is a promising device. I really do. I think it's something that's that could have some potential. Finally, I mean, it's been a long time. Jeff, you don't have any experience with this stuff. Right? Does anything this interest you?
I played with Tablo when it first came out.
Yeah, they had the old version. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and back then it was a little black box, and It was great. And I loved that it let me grab content from wherever I needed to get it, and the device could live wherever it needed to because it was just on the network. I think Tableau's a really great thing, and if you're a cord cutter and you want your def over-the-air local TV, this is a great way to do it. It's the best way to do it. I'm curious to see how this plays out, though, as local TV stations slowly work to push the new protocol that increase the local signal, which means you have to have a specific box to be able to get your local TV, and that raises a whole nother set of problems because now you're gatekeeping over the air content, and there is a segment of our population that doesn't have the money to pay for encrypted content, and now they're going to lose that at some point.
Yeah. I'm
totally taking us down a rat hole all of a sudden, but Tableau, it's great.
No, I mean this is something to take a look at. So I highly recommend it, and to take a look at where it's at. So one last thing I wanted to touch on. We had a couple other topics, but we're getting close to time here. But this app, I noticed, I found I really love having apps that allows you to be able to share your iPhone on your Mac and be able to share the screen, so you can illustrations, as well as be able to record your device and all that stuff. And I've used many. I've had many of these types of applications before, but this one looks pretty gosh darn good because it's the best part about it is it's very quick and reactive when you're moving your device around, because I'm always dealing with it having a bit of a lag here. And it's called Bexel, Bezel, and allows you to show your iPhone on your Mac, present, record an iPhone, and be able to do a presentation. It does have a demo version where you can try it out. It has just watermarks on it, but support developer. It's $29. It's not a bad thing at all. But I think it's a really cool app. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this before.
I have seen this before, and I agree it's a cool app. I like that we have multiple choices for how we get the content from our iPhones and iPads onto our Macs. Like if we're doing presentations, or you need to do a video recording of what's happening on your iPhone, and you don't want to have the red record banner thing on the recording. It's nice to have options.
Yep. Any other thoughts from the panel?
Just that I've read about this. I haven't played with it yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen it myself, but I'm literally downloading this right now.
Good. So yeah, check it out. The app, the link is in the show notes. Worth to check the things out. And again, if it is, you see the picture on here, it's actually showing you actually can mirror two copies of the same iPhone So you actually can have them in different parts of the screen. So you're even getting a more immersed way of being able to do a presentation.
Well, I like how they overlay the bezel of the iPhone.
It knows the bezel.
Yeah. So so if you want it to look as if it's the physical phone as opposed to just casting the screen to another device, that's very cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a red iPhone 10R here, and when it gets connected, it knows that's what it is, and you got the red frame, and just like the iPhone, it is. So I think they've done some great things with this. A lot of good positive feedback too. So, but that to conclude the show for this week. I think we've done some great topics, and we're going to go ahead and wrap up for the week here. So, and that is a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, which is feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Mastadon, which is at intouchwithios at techhangout.social. Support the show by buying me a coffee at intouchwithios.com/coffee. We really appreciate it. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/intouchwithios. We have 2 tiers available to support the show. We would really appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and you will be notified when we are live streaming, which is on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. A shout out to Webb and Brett and Cletus and others that were in the chat this week. And you can go to that's our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/intouchwithios, which you can watch the live stream as well as watch the recording of the live stream, as well as listening to all of our past shows. Visit In Touch with iOS magazine on Flipboard, where many of the topics we discussed are flipped into the magazine. That link is in our show notes. You can subscribe to the show in your favorite podcatcher, including Pocket Cast, Overcast, Apple Podcasts, many others. But better yet, just go to our website at intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are there. I'm Dave Ginsburg. You can find me on Mastodon at DaveD65 at Mastodon.cloud. And Chuck Joyner, thanks again for being here as well. And where can people find you?
Hey, David, thanks for having me as always. It's always a blast. MacVoices.com is where you'll find me. We are still releasing holiday gift guide shows among our other Mac Voices content. We do a live show Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on YouTube at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV with all 3 of these delinquents and some of our other friends. And it's always a whole lot of fun. David seems to keep better control of his guests than I do. I don't know why. But
it's the same guests.
Yeah, I know. That's the disturbing thing. Dave, you got to talk to me about that later. And on any of the socials, you can find me as @Chuck Joyner. Thanks again.
Thanks, Chuck. Appreciate it. Ben Roethig, thank you for being here as well. And where can people find you?
Well, Dave, you can find me at Ben Roethig on your social media of choice. For my writings, you can find me at roethig.tech. On Tuesday nights, you can find me with the aforementioned cast of delinquents on Mac Voices Live. On Thursday day, you can find me on the big show on the British Tech Network. Now that we've paid our $0, or in this case £0. And Friday, you can find me on the Mac Show.
Great. Thank you, Ben. Last but certainly not least, Jeff Gamet. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Where can people find you?
It's always a treat. So thank you. It's great to be here. Okay. So, Jay Gamet on social media, Mastodon, Instagram, and Threads. That's where I'm posting stuff right now. Then shows. Mac Voices Live on Tuesdays, then here on In Touch with iOS on Thursdays, then for the British Tech Network, Thursdays on the Big Show, Fridays on the Mac Show, and also Brian Chaffin and I, who do the Context Machine.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. And thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the show because we enjoyed doing it, and we'll talk again soon.